The judge had already reached for the next folder when my uncle stood up and said, "Your Honor, there is no reason to open that envelope." That was the moment I knew my family had been lying to me. The envelope sat inside a clear evidence sleeve on the judge's desk. It was thick, cream-colored, and sealed with dark red wax. Across the front, in my grandmother's unmistakable handwriting, were 6 words, "Open only after they challenge her." I had seen that handwriting my entire life. On birthday cards, on grocery lists, on little notes Grandma slipped into my lunch bag when I was a teenager, but I had never seen those words, and until that morning I had no idea the envelope existed. My name is Nia Parker. I'm 34 years old, a Black American woman with North African family heritage, and I grew up in Maryland in a family that always seemed to have 2 versions of itself. There was the family everyone else saw: polite, successful, respectable. And then there was the family I knew behind closed doors. My mother, Vanessa, believed everything had a price. My father, Michael, believed peace was more important than truth. My older brother, Daniel, believed Grandma's money should have belonged to him. And Grandma, Evelyn Parker, was the only person who seemed to understand me without asking me to prove that I deserved her love. She raised me more than my parents ever did. When I was 11, she taught me how to make her famous lemon cake. When I was 14, she helped me study for biology. When I was 22 and broke, she let me sleep in her guest room without once asking when I planned to leave. And when I became a nurse, she cried harder than my mother did. "You always wanted to take care of people," she told me. Then she squeezed my hand. "Never let anyone convince you that kindness makes you weak." Those words came back to me many times after she died. Because 6 months before that courtroom hearing, Grandma was gone, and almost immediately my family changed. At the funeral, my mother barely cried. Instead, she kept asking questions. Did the attorney say when the estate would be settled? Daniel asked about the house before Grandma had even been buried. My father told him to stop, but he didn't. 3 weeks later, my Uncle Robert called a family meeting. That's when we learned Grandma had left behind more than anyone expected. Her house was worth nearly $900,000. There were investment accounts, a small commercial property, several retirement accounts, and something called the Evelyn Parker Family Trust. I remember staring at the papers. "What does that mean?" I asked. Robert adjusted his glasses. "It means your grandmother made specific arrangements for her assets." My mother looked at me, not warmly, not sadly, almost angrily. Then Robert said the sentence that changed everything. "According to the trust, Nia is the primary beneficiary." Nobody spoke. Daniel stopped breathing for a second. My mother stood up. She must have been confused. I looked at her. Grandma knew exactly what she was doing. My mother smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. It was the smile she used when she thought she had already won. "No, sweetheart," she said. "You don't understand how this works." I didn't know it then, but my family had already decided they were going to take everything from me. And 11 years earlier, Grandma had apparently decided she wouldn't let them. The first time I realized my mother treated me differently from Daniel, I was 13. It was Christmas morning. Daniel received a new laptop. I received a sweater. I thanked my mother anyway. Later that afternoon, Grandma found me sitting alone in the kitchen. "You're doing that thing again," she said. "What thing?" "Pretending something doesn't hurt because you don't want anyone to know it hurt." I looked down. "I'm fine." Grandma laughed softly. "No, baby, you're polite." She sat beside me. "That's different." I started crying. She didn't tell me to stop. She simply pulled me against her shoulder. That became our relationship. Whenever my parents made me feel like I was asking for too much, Grandma reminded me that I wasn't. Whenever Daniel made a joke about me being the responsible child, Grandma would quietly tell him, "Responsibility isn't a punishment." And when I left home for nursing school, she gave me an old brass key. I held it in my palm. "What does this open?" "You'll know when you need it," I laughed. "Grandma, that's incredibly mysterious." She smiled. "Good." I kept that key for 11 years. I never found out what it opened. After Grandma died, I searched her house. Nothing. Then the inheritance dispute began. My mother claimed Grandma had promised Daniel the house. Daniel claimed Grandma had told him the business property would be his. My father said he couldn't remember what she had said. Robert suddenly produced a handwritten document that supposedly showed Grandma intended to divide everything equally among her children. But there was a problem. The document was dated after Grandma had created her trust, and the signature looked wrong. I told Robert I wanted an independent attorney. My mother exploded. "You're really going to turn this into a legal fight? You already did. We're your family." I looked at her. "You didn't act like family when you challenged Grandma's trust." She slammed her hand on the table. "You think that money makes you special?" "No." I picked up my coat. "I think Grandma loved me." That sentence made everyone silent. 2 days later, I received a letter from an attorney representing my mother and Daniel. They were formally challenging the trust. Their argument was simple. Grandma had been elderly. She had allegedly been pressured. She had supposedly been confused when she changed her estate plan, and they claimed I had manipulated her. That accusation hurt more than I expected. I had spent years taking care of Grandma, driving her to appointments, buying groceries, helping with medication, making sure she ate. Now they were using those same things as evidence against me. My attorney, Maya Brooks, looked through everything carefully. "There's something strange here," she said. "What? Your grandmother changed the trust 11 years ago." I stared at her. "Why? I don't know." She turned another page. "But she also created a separate instruction document." "What kind?" "I'm not sure. It's referenced here, but the document isn't attached." My stomach tightened. "Where is it?" Maya shook her head. "I don't know yet." Then she noticed the brass key hanging from my keychain. "What does that open?" I told her what Grandma had said. Maya looked at it for a long moment. "Maybe you should find out." That night, I returned to Grandma's house. I walked through the quiet rooms, the kitchen, the hallway, her bedroom. Then I remembered something. 11 years earlier, Grandma had taken me into the basement and told me never to move the old sewing cabinet. I had never understood why. Now I stood in front of it, and for the first time, I noticed a tiny brass keyhole. The key fit. My hands started shaking. Inside the cabinet was a narrow wooden compartment. There was a small box, a photograph, and a handwritten note. The note had my name on it. I opened it. "Nia, if you are reading this, they have challenged the trust." I sat down on the basement floor. My heart was pounding. The note continued. "I know you will want to believe this is about money. It isn't." I read that sentence twice. Then again. Grandma explained that 11 years earlier, my mother had asked her for a large loan. The money was supposed to help Daniel start a business. Grandma had refused. Not because she didn't love Daniel, because she knew the business plan was built on debt. My mother became furious. She told Grandma that she was destroying the family by refusing to help. A week later, my mother came to Grandma's house with a lawyer. She wanted Grandma to change her estate plan. Grandma refused. That was when Grandma created the trust. She also began documenting everything, every request, every argument, every financial transaction. Every time someone tried to pressure her, I stopped reading. There was another page. "Your mother will tell you I was confused." I wasn't. My eyes filled with tears. Grandma had known. She knew exactly what they would say after she died. Then I found another line. "But there is something they don't know." Underneath was an address, not Grandma's house. A storage facility 20 minutes away. I called Maya. She came with me the next morning. The storage unit was small. Inside were boxes labeled with dates. There were bank statements, emails, Letters, copies of legal documents, and photographs. Maya opened a folder, her expression changed. What? She handed me a document. It was a letter from my mother. The letter was 11 years old. In it, my mother admitted that she had asked Grandma to change the trust. But that wasn't the worst part. She had also written, "If Nia receives everything, Daniel and I will have nothing to show for all the years we cared for you." I stared at the sentence. Years. I remembered those years. My mother had visited Grandma twice. Daniel came for Thanksgiving one year. I had been the one driving Grandma to appointments. I had been the one sitting beside her during her surgeries. I had been there, yet my mother had written as though I had stolen something from her. Maya found another folder. This one contained medical records. Grandma had undergone a cognitive evaluation 11 years earlier. The results were perfectly normal. The evaluation had been ordered specifically because my mother had accused her of becoming confused. She planned for this, Maya whispered. I nodded. But then she found something even more important, a list of witnesses. One name stood out, Helen Brooks, Grandma's former accountant. Maya called her. Helen agreed to meet us. We sat in a quiet coffee shop. Helen was 71. She brought a small notebook. Your grandmother told me something, she said. What? She said, if my children ever challenge Nia, don't fight them with emotion. Give the truth to the court. I felt a chill. What truth? Helen looked at me. There is one document I was instructed never to release unless the trust was challenged in court. What document? Helen's eyes moved toward Maya. A sealed letter. My heart dropped. Where is it? In the custody of the attorney who handled your grandmother's estate. Maya sat forward. Why wasn't it disclosed during discovery? Helen smiled sadly. Because your grandmother specifically instructed the attorney to keep it sealed. Until when? Helen looked directly at me. Until your family challenged the trust. The lawsuit became uglier after that. My mother stopped calling me. Daniel began telling relatives that I had manipulated Grandma. Someone even sent an anonymous complaint to my nursing supervisor claiming I had neglected Grandma while she was under my care. It was a lie. But the investigation still had to happen. For 2 weeks, I lived with the fear that I might lose the career I had spent more than a decade building. Then my mother called. Her voice sounded different, soft, almost gentle. Nia, can we meet? I should have known. We met at a restaurant near her office. She looked tired. I don't want us fighting anymore, she said. I said nothing. We can settle this. How? You keep the house. I stared at her. And? Daniel gets the investment accounts. And the commercial property? She hesitated. That's complicated. What's the condition? She looked away. You withdraw the lawsuit. I almost laughed. You challenged Grandma's trust. And I'm willing to compromise. I wanted to believe her. That was the worst part. Some part of me still wanted my mother to be my mother, not an opponent, not someone sitting across from me with lawyers, my eyes filled with tears. What do you actually want? She reached across the table. I want my daughter back. For one dangerous second, I believed her. Then she pushed a document toward me. I read the first paragraph. I would have to sign a statement admitting that I had influenced Grandma's estate decisions. I would also have to agree never to discuss the family's legal dispute publicly. And if the nursing complaint became a problem, I would have no right to use the settlement agreement as evidence. I looked at her. You don't want your daughter back. Her face hardened. You're being dramatic. No. I pushed the document away. You want me silent. She stood. You're making a huge mistake. Maybe I was, but that night I finally understood something. My family wasn't fighting me because they loved Grandma. They were fighting because Grandma had left the money to the person she trusted most, and that person was me. The next morning, Maya called. The judge approved the hearing date. I swallowed. When? Friday. My hands went cold. What about the sealed letter? The estate attorney is bringing it. Friday arrived. My parents entered the courtroom together. Daniel looked confident. Robert carried 3 folders. My mother wore the blue suit she always wore when she wanted to look respectable. I sat beside Maya. Then the estate attorney walked in. He carried a small evidence box. Inside it was the sealed envelope. My grandmother's handwriting was clearly visible. Open only after they challenge her. The judge reviewed the documents. My uncle argued that Grandma had been manipulated. He claimed I had isolated her. He claimed the trust was unfair. He said the family had been excluded from decisions. Then he made a mistake. We have no evidence that Mrs. Parker understood the consequences of her final decisions. Maya stood. Actually, Your Honor, we do. She presented the cognitive evaluation, the medical records, the accountant's testimony, the correspondence. One by one, the judge examined them. My mother's expression changed. Then the judge looked at the sealed envelope. Before I rule on the trust, she said, I want this document entered into the record. My uncle stood. Your Honor, the judge raised her hand. Sit down, Mr. Whitmore. He did. The courtroom became silent. The judge reached for the envelope. And that was when my uncle said the words that I would never forget. Your Honor, there is no reason to open that. The judge looked at him, then at the envelope, then back at him. That's not for you to decide. She broke the seal and began reading. The judge unfolded the letter. For several seconds, she read silently. My mother stared at the floor. Daniel stopped moving. Then the judge spoke. The first line says, she paused, if you are reading this, my children have finally done exactly what I feared they would do. Nobody moved. The judge continued. They will tell you Nia manipulated me. They will tell you I was confused. They will tell you she took advantage of an old woman. My mother whispered, this is ridiculous. The judge looked up. Ms. Parker, please remain silent. Then she continued. But I want the court to know one thing, Nia never asked me for my money. My throat tightened. The judge read on. In fact, when I offered her the house, she refused it. Daniel's face went pale. That was true. 11 years earlier, Grandma had offered me the house. I had told her I didn't want it. I wanted her to keep living there. I wanted it to remain her home. The judge continued. My daughter Vanessa asked me repeatedly to remove Nia from the trust. She said Nia was too independent and would not share the estate. My mother shook her head. No, the judge kept reading. My son Daniel also asked me to leave him the commercial property. When I refused, he told me Nia had filled my head with ideas. Daniel stood. That isn't true. Sit down, the judge ordered. He sat. The letter continued. Then came the part nobody expected. I have recordings. The courtroom became completely silent. The judge looked toward the estate attorney. Are these attached? He nodded. Yes, Your Honor. He handed her a small digital drive. The judge reviewed the files. There were recordings from 11 years earlier. Conversations between Grandma and my mother, between Grandma and Daniel, between Grandma and Robert. In one recording, my mother said, You're going to regret leaving everything to Nia. Grandma answered calmly. I won't regret protecting her. My mother's voice became angry. She doesn't deserve more than Daniel. Grandma replied, She doesn't have more, she has what I choose to give her. Then my mother's voice dropped. Fine, but when you're gone, don't expect us to forgive her. The recording ended. My mother covered her face. The judge listened to another. This one was Daniel. He was asking Grandma to sign over the commercial property. When she refused, he said something that made my entire body go cold. You know Nia will abandon you once she gets married. Grandma answered, She has never abandoned me. Daniel said, She will. Grandma's voice became firm. Then you don't know her at all. The judge stopped the recording. She looked at my family. Is there anything you would like to explain? Nobody answered. Then my uncle stood. He looked exhausted. Your Honor, the judge waited. He slowly placed another document on the table. This was not supposed to be presented. My mother turned toward him. "Robert," he looked at her, "you should have told the truth." He slid the document forward. It was an original copy of Grandma's estate instructions. The signature was genuine. The date was 11 years old, and at the bottom was one final handwritten sentence. "If they fight Nia, give her the house and the letter. Let them keep whatever they believe money can buy." I began crying, not because I had won. Because I finally understood Grandma. She hadn't been trying to make me rich. She had been trying to make sure I couldn't be controlled. The judge reviewed everything for several minutes. Then she delivered her decision. The trust was valid. The challenge was dismissed. The house, investments, and commercial property would remain under the terms Grandma had established. My mother and Daniel received nothing from the trust, but the judge didn't stop there. She also ordered the parties to preserve the evidence concerning the false nursing complaint. My mother looked at me. For the first time in my life, she looked frightened. After court, she approached me. "Nia," I stopped. She looked like she wanted to say something, maybe apologize, maybe ask for another chance. Instead, she whispered, "She really chose you." I looked at her. "No, Mom," I wiped my tears. "She chose what she believed was right." And then I walked away. 3 months after the hearing, the nursing investigation ended. The complaint against me was dismissed. My career survived. The lawsuit was over. The house was mine. The commercial property was mine. The accounts were mine. On paper, I had won everything my family had fought me for, but for a while, I didn't feel like I had won anything. I walked through Grandma's house and felt her absence everywhere. Her blue mug was still beside the kitchen sink. Her recipe cards were still tucked inside the drawer. The old clock in the hallway still lost 3 minutes every day, and the brass key was still on my keychain. One Saturday morning, I finally decided to find out what it opened. I walked through the house, past the kitchen, past the hallway, into Grandma's old study. There was a small wooden cabinet beneath the window. I had never noticed the keyhole. My hands shook as I inserted the key. It opened. Inside was a single photograph. It showed Grandma and me when I was 19. I was sitting beside her on the porch. Behind us was the little porch light she always kept on. Under the photograph was another note. This one was short. "Nia, if you found this, then you already know the truth." I smiled through my tears. The next sentence made me stop breathing. The money was never the inheritance. Below it, Grandma had written, "The inheritance was knowing that you don't have to earn your place in a family that truly loves you." I sat on the floor and cried. Not the kind of crying I had done in the courtroom. This was quieter. It was the kind that comes when something you've carried for years finally becomes too heavy to hold. I finally understood why Grandma had always told me that kindness wasn't weakness. She knew I would spend my life trying to prove myself to people who had already decided I wasn't enough. She wanted me to stop. So I did. I kept the house. But I didn't turn it into some giant monument to Grandma. Instead, I opened one room as a small community study space for nursing students who couldn't afford expensive tutoring. I remembered being 19, scared, overwhelmed, trying to become someone my family would be proud of. I wanted other young people to have the kind of support Grandma had given me. One evening, almost a year after the courtroom hearing, a young woman came to the door. She was nervous. "I heard you help nursing students." "I do." She looked down. "I don't know if I belong here," I smiled. "Why not?" "Because I don't think I'm good enough." For a moment, I saw myself at 13, sitting alone in Grandma's kitchen, pretending nothing hurt. I stepped aside. "Come in." She looked at me. "Really? Really?" As she walked inside, I switched on the porch light. The same light Grandma had turned on every evening for decades. I stood beneath it for a moment. Then I understood the final lesson. My family had spent months fighting over Grandma's fortune. They believed the inheritance was the money, the house, The property, the accounts, they were wrong. Grandma had left me something none of them could take. She left me the courage to stop begging people to love me. She left me the wisdom to know that blood doesn't automatically make people family. And she left me a porch light, not as a reminder of what I had lost, but as a promise. That there would always be a place where someone who felt unwanted could come inside. And that night, as I watched the young nursing student open her books at Grandma's old kitchen table, I finally understood why my grandmother had sealed that envelope. She wasn't trying to defeat my family. She was trying to make sure that, when they came for everything, they couldn't take the one thing that mattered most. The person she had raised me to become.